The title of my presentation is Integrating Student Success Skills Across Disciplines into Any Course Curriculum. So as I said, I'm Jamie Parmisi, and I'm an adjunct assistant professor of English at Raritan Valley Community College in Branchburg, New Jersey. And I just want to take a moment to say how excited I am. This is my first time. I attended this conference last year briefly during quarantine and the pandemic, but this is my first time having, I think, a fuller experience of attending it and obviously presenting at it. So I'm just very excited to be here. And I'm also very excited for your engagement as well. And I was really inspired by the beautiful, calm way that our keynote speaker today presented their presentation. It was really wonderful. So I hope that I can mimic that and infuse that kind of calmness and beauty here as well. So I'm really excited to be with you today. So I did choose this picture on purpose for my title slide because I want to share with you how equipped I felt personally as a teacher, and also I think how equipped my students felt when I integrated student success skills, and we'll define what that means in a minute. But I also want you teachers to walk away from this presentation also feeling equipped and also feeling like you're able to check things off a list that perhaps you may want to try out by the end of this presentation if you think that the material that's going to be presented today would be helpful for your course. So thank you so much for being here today. So the learning outcomes of this session, by the end of this session, you will be able to do the following. You'll be able to define why integrating success, and it will be abbreviated from this point forward as SCCS. Skills in curriculum help students in class. So, and I don't blame you if you might be thinking, coming into this, how might, let's say, integrating teaching time management necessarily help in my discipline of, let's say, a course that doesn't necessarily have to do with student success or is in a discipline that just seems maybe unrelated. And I'm going to show you how it can be connected really in any discipline, any course. You'll also be able to access, gather, and store ready-to-use resources that promote these success. So some resources will be a little bit more immediately accessible than others. I do have just a simple Word document with a few links to a couple of videos on these success skills that you can share with students. But you'll definitely be able to also have ideas to walk away with that you can implement immediately into your own course. And then we'll also give you my contact information by the end of this presentation so that we can keep in touch. And especially if you want to transfer any modules or pages from the materials that I have in Canvas, that I'm more than happy to share with you, again, if you think this would be helpful for you. The third outcome is that we're going to learn how we can brainstorm which success skills would be the most useful to emphasize in your course. And then also identify the value of promoting success skills via open educational resources. Also will be abbreviated from this point forward as, so I'm going to touch on that. That honestly could be a whole nother lecture, a whole nother presentation for another day, but I wanted to at least briefly touch on that aspect because these materials that I'm going to be sharing with you are open and thus qualify as OER. And then lastly, I'm going to introduce a series of steps and questions that could easily be revised if you want for purposes and usage for your own class, but steps and questions that I found useful in asking myself. And again, just choosing which student success skills do I think would be helpful in integrating into the course. So I definitely invite you to please feel free to engage throughout this presentation. I invite you to jot down any ideas that come to mind as I am showing and telling in these success materials. You can feel free to save your questions for the chat in the Q&A portion of this session. I'm going to do my very best to pause around 11:45-ish so that we have about 5 to 10 minutes for questions. And then I would love for you to answer this question in the chat if you can. Which professional skills of your students need the most attention for success in your course, do you feel? So, in other words, do you think perhaps communication with you, the professor, maybe needs to be improved the most, let's say? Do you think perhaps note taking needs to be improved the most for students to succeed in your course? Maybe how to read scholarly articles. That could be another perhaps skill that you think your students might need the most attention for success on, let's say, a project or an exam or an essay that you assign in your course that needs scholarly sources. Perhaps goal setting. Again, I think one of the most popular ones tends to be time management as well. So those are just a handful of professional skills that are examples. So if you could in the chat, I would love to hear your feedback in terms of which skills do you think your students could possibly benefit the most from, with a little emphasis in your course. So if you could please do that, that would be great. Let's see. Oh, sorry. Now, I'm not sure, you'll have to forgive me. I'm not sure where I can access the chat. Share. Okay. So can someone just feel free to verbally share some skills perhaps that you think could benefit from some attention in your class, whether it's time management, communication, or another skill that you brainstormed on your own? Do I have any takers? You can feel free to unmute yourself and just shout it out.
Note taking. Some of my students, I think they've been so used to being online, we're in person. So as I'm telling them sometimes to take notes, they're still just looking at me as I talk and put things on the board. I'm not sure what the disconnect is there.
I too agree that it's note taking, but I don't think
Yes,
they know how to. That's the problem. I've had occasions when I've said, "Okay, show me your notes," and I could not understand the note that they took down. So that's a big problem.
I agree. I've seen the same thing.
that's
I had them
great.
do
Yeah,
an
absolutely note
assignment
taking.
in
So I loved.
class. Yeah.
Yeah, this is great. Thank you so much. I loved the emphasis on the fact how we're transferring, right, from virtual to in person. And like, there have been skills that I think people have forgotten in a way to continue developing or to get kind of back in the swing of things. Like, even with communication, like we're used to online communication for the past like couple of years with being in the pandemic, and now that we're emerging back into in person, like I practice again verbally communicating, but also with the note taking as well. Yeah, to be understanding some notes as well, right? So that's a really great one. Yeah, absolutely. Anyone else? More, or that's okay too. But just I want to give at least one more opportunity. Okay, all right, no problem. So we have a small handful of examples that perhaps could be useful, and that helps inform me of which materials perhaps that I can emphasize in showing you today. Okay, so just as part of my introduction, a little bit more in depth, there I am. I teach English Composition 1 and 2. And before coming to RVCC, I was actually a student myself at RVCC. So I did well in high school, so I was able to go for free New Jersey STARS program, and then I was able to transfer to a local state school, and then I went on to get my master's degree, and now I'm back at RVCC teaching. So it's tremendously life-giving and very, very rewarding. And one of the reasons why well, a couple of reasons I list here, why I'm so passionate about teaching English composition is that it helps students develop professional, mature communication in speaking and writing. And I also think it's a pathway to successfully take advantage of opportunities that will help students build a better life for themselves. So what do I mean by that? Well, oftentimes students, they apply, right, to transfer to their dream school, or they apply to their dream job. And so often there are gateways, right, to those opportunities and to move along further. So they need to be good at communicating themselves, their vision. And if that communication is not perceived as mature, as professional, that gate to that opportunity, that door, whatever you want to call it, could be closed to them. So, and I myself have suffered, unfortunately, when my community, in large, most understood the value of a community college degree, but there were few people who didn't and made assumptions about my qualification, quality of being for me. It really planted a seed for me to make it my mission to prevent that from happening to students as much as possible when they are from BCCC, and to really disprove any assumptions or any of them. So that's why I am particularly passionate about teaching English composition. And the communication aspect ties very, very closely into success skills overall. So I also serve as the coordinator and liaison for Pathways to College Success. So the material that I'm going to share with you today come from this course, Pathways to College Success. And I list right here for you this particular skills that this course develops for students. So communicating, but particularly with professors, time management, self-motivation, reading and note-taking, like we had touched on briefly a couple of minutes ago, studying for exams, also physical wellness and academic achievement. So by and large, these skills absolutely impact students' performance in the class. And I think I'm a firm believer that the more that they're able to master these skills, the better students that they'll be. And who knows, maybe you yourself could take away some things from the materials that could help you, continually grow as a professional and as a teacher. And also with these Pathways to College Success courses, a lot of times the local high schools around our BCC will take advantage of these classes by wanting to have them incorporated for, let's say, the juniors or the seniors who want to get a head start in their college education, get a taste of it, and also just be at a good place once they officially start their degree at whatever institution they may go to, whether it be at RBCC or elsewhere. So I noticed a problem. I felt like there was a missing puzzle piece when I was teaching my students, particularly in my English composition courses. I noticed that there were a lot of times where students would end up getting a very, very poor grade because I had a grade penalty in terms of, let's say, time management, right? In terms of having them turn their essays in on time. And what was happening was that with each day, I had a certain amount of points taken off. And many of the students, especially the ones, let's say, English 1 or English 2, but maybe English 1, because for many of them, it's one of their first college classes, and they're just starting to learn how to manage a college schedule versus, let's say, a more structured high school schedule that's kind of planned out for them a little bit. They need to take independence and ownership of their own schedule once they get to college. So I noticed that there just seems to be this missing puzzle piece in terms of, like, their grades ended up suffering because maybe not necessarily of the quality of the writing so much, not like putting that aside for a second, but a big factor as to why their grades were going down, especially on the essays, is because they were turning it in late. So I wanted to say, okay, how can I still try to get them, to motivate them to turn their assignments in, but how can I also equip them with the success skills that clearly they need some development on to help them get to where they need to be and to help them succeed in the course, and just so that it's better for everyone, because then they get discouraged or they get angry or they get upset. And I'm sure the variety of student reactions that students can have. And I had attended the presentation before mine, the one on how students can, unfortunately engage in manipulative behavior in terms of, oh, well, I had this going on and blah, blah, blah. So keeping that in mind, right, how do we manage that effectively? But maybe even better, how do we prevent that from happening? So this was the problem I was pondering. And then it finally hit me when I was transferring my previous term's English composition course materials into of other materials I could transfer. So I addressed the problem by thinking, well, why not just combine some of the material that I have been teaching from my success courses, because I was teaching the Pathways to College Success courses before I started coordinating them. Why not just simply transfer some of that material on time management, on reading, on note-taking into my Canvas course, or whichever learning management system you're using, into my Canvas course for English composition? There were many useful videos, useful pages of just notes, and honestly sharing on my part on maybe what worked for me when, I was in graduate school and I had that 20-page paper due by the end of the term. What time management strategies worked for me and what can I share with my students, right? They might not be doing a 20-page paper in my English 1 class, but to them, an 8-page paper towards the end of the term seems very, very mammoth. So how can we equip them and calm them and enable them to manage that effectively? So I thought, why not just incorporate this kind of material into the course? They have it in case they would like to see it. I'm not going to require them necessarily to go through it, but they at least have it. And then maybe at my convenience as I'm teaching the course, because of course I have other material and I'm sure you do as well, show them perhaps these materials and maybe engage with the materials on a little bit of a deeper level for maybe like 10 minutes or something, in the period. So again, why success skills? Well, specifically, professional skill development helps students improve on skills in class. So I'm touching on this overall, but in particular, communication improves students' interaction with professors and in their writing. Time management, that's going to improve their assignment completion, thus retention. So again, no matter what course you're teaching, right, each of these skills you could help them develop. Self-motivation, it improves the ability to jump and ask for help. Reading and note-taking, like we touched on, improves comprehension of material that you're going to teach. And the study skills improves performance on exams, tests, etc., and thus their confidence, too. We want our students to be feeling confident about themselves in being able to master this material. And also physical wellness. It obviously improves in concentration and focus in your class. I think that's a given. And my grandfather, he always used to say, if you don't take care of your body doesn't take care of you. And I think that is such a true grain of wisdom. I think we need to be cognizant of that of our students. And if we show our students that we care about these skills and developing them, we're also showing that we care about them as human beings. I think it's so important. So I noticed, and yes, I'm using the same little guy that I had used for my title slide, because again, I just felt like I was checking off all the things on the list that I wanted to do and that I wanted them to feel equipped, and it felt really great to see that. I noticed that there was a more friendly, approachable classroom environment, and that led to a more risk-taking of ideas. I noticed that students felt equipped with abundance of resources, and that in turn led to a deeper depth of self-accountability and self-responsibility, and they took more ownership of the fact that, you know what, I messed up, I didn't manage my time well, this one's on me, I understand if I get the low grade. And that takes a tremendous amount of pressure off of me and off of you, the instructor, because you provided the resources they could have used to help with their time management, let's say, but they were able to now take ownership of that. Also, a relatable community of support, build each other up, I noticed, especially when we talked about communicating effectively. And as teachers, we're able to model that for them, right? Whereas teachers, we're communicators. And yes, there's always growth for improvement on any of these skills for any of us or any of our students, right? But in general, right, we're pretty good communicators. Less time in class spent on frequently asked questions that are already answered in success materials. So frequently asked questions in terms of like, where do I find my grades? I had a page on that. How can I succeed in this course? I had a page on that. So, and also like, why did you get teaching? I uploaded a personal essay about that. So all I had to do was say, read my personal essay if you want to know that, instead of me having to repeat myself over and over and over again. And then they could take a look at it if they want. Okay, so let's look at some materials. So I'm going to click escape from this PowerPoint, and I'm just going to minimize it for a second. And I want to give you a peek into these materials. So this is mostly show and tell. And I do apologize if there's like a little bit of lagging time in between, like loading between the different pages. So while we're here, oh, okay, it is loading on the other one. All right, here we go. So this is my course materials course on Canvas. So I can transfer the modules and the pages from here into any course, and I will. And if you email me after the presentation, I can give you directions on how you can do that from an access from the Meriden Valley. I'd be happy to share this with you. So these are. So take notes as I'm going through, just in case any of these might be helpful to you. So I have a welcome to Canvas module. How helpful it is for students, any course, right, to give a welcome to the learning management system they're using. That way class time doesn't have to be spent on, oh, I don't know how to access Canvas, I don't know how to navigate it. You might do a brief tour of it on the first day. Here they at least have material that they can go their own pace and learn, okay, what is Canvas? Where can I learn about Canvas? How do I get started? How will Canvas be used for this course in specific? These questions that are the titles of these pages, you could easily use your own course in any discipline, right? How do I keep track of my grades in Canvas? And again, if you're not using Canvas, learning management system, and if you're not using an LMS, how do I keep track of my grades in general, right? That could be useful for students getting started. And then it's also, I think, important to include the Creative Commons license for the original content, just to model for your students. That is, but to cite sources. Okay, so here I have, I'll go back to this. Welcome to an title, institution. So I upload a personal essay about myself. Who is my instructor? And I felt like our keynote speaker really modeled that beautifully today, when they were so brave and so strong and so vulnerable in sharing their story of the struggles that they've been through, that led to where they are. So here, that's kind of going on here in terms of uploading a personal essay about myself. So who is my instructor? So as we wait for the picture to load, I talk about, we're going to be spending the next X weeks together. This was a fairly condensed course in this case, and you can edit anything, right? All you have to do is click the edit again in Canvas, at least, but I'm sure any management system. So here I title a little slice of Professor Parmesi's life. I give the phonetic pronunciation of my last name, just in case they want that, and I just basically tell them the story of how I was a student at RVC and how I was inspired back and teach, where I studied in particular. And there was an activity here that furthered the getting to know me aspect of the first day, but I just simply took it out because I wanted to move forward on going, let's say, over the syllabus. So I end by saying, you can ask me any questions that you have about me, any questions, fair game, is not appropriate. And again, I do apologize. I guess my internet connection is not being the best today, but there is a picture of me. It's the same one that I presentation. But let me bring you back. We can take a look at some of the other materials, and I am keeping an eye on time because I do want to leave 5 to 10 minutes for some questions and answers for the presentation. So hopefully this will load in a few minutes. and we can continue to be on our way. And I can definitely show, because note taking was mentioned, I can definitely show the page for that, just to help make our time more efficient here. But just quickly, so upload some student conduct rules, have them choose like which rules do you want to create for good conduct in this class. I have a lounge where they can ask, chat about things outside the course. What do I need to do to be successful? Any of my question institution. How do I communicate with my professors? I created a Panopto video that is a minute or two long on how to communicate. That saves a lot of miscommunication and trouble down the road. Self-empowerment. So one go to another personal essay on why I did choose to go to college. Sometimes students aren't there completely for pure self-motivational reasons. Sometimes they feel like they're forcing them to come or whatnot. So this kind of helps promote higher education and maybe spark some self-motivation for them, that it's, it's good to come to class and to further their education, especially online courses, right? There's a page online courses right for me, even though this particular course was online. I did it because there are students online classes, and maybe this page could help them determine that. Reading and note taking. So since that was one mentioned, let's take a look at this. So, and as you can see, it's in the module to academic excellence. So again, just kind of like promoting that open, welcoming culture and environment there. And it's called craft study skills, just to emphasize really the efficiency in which students can go through these activities or videos. And who knows, maybe you want to offer some extra credit if they do watch one of these videos and perhaps perform a reflection. Okay. So here there are many different ways to read and take notes. This one's about reading, and this is about taking notes. So maybe we can just like watch a few seconds, maybe 30 seconds or so, of this video.
Hi, I'm Thomas Frank. This is Crash Course Study Skills, and today we're going to look at how to take great notes. And you're probably going to want to write that down. Why focus on your notes? Well, simply put, when it comes to learning and retaining information, output is just as important as input. When you're first learning a fact or a concept, intaking new information. But to retain that information for a long time, you need to store it in a place that you can easily access later on, and you need to put it in your own. Now, before we talk about specific note-taking systems, what information you should actually record in your notes, and whether or not it's helpful to blend them up and drink them like a milkshake, let's start with what's going to set you up for success in the first place, showing up to class prepared with the right tools. There are 3 routes you can go in selecting those tools: paper, computer, or ARM. What's the best option? Well, we can probably narrow it down to either paper or computer. Between those two, there's a debate going on for years, but we do have some recent scientific evidence that we can turn to for some hard answers. According to a study done at Princeton University in 2014, students who took notes on a 15-minute lecture using a laptop wrote an average of 310 words.
So just for efficiency of time, you can get a taste of like this efficient speed at which these videos go. I'm going to go specifically to this part that I think would be most useful in terms of the core of this video.
Early on, carefully look at the syllabus, pay attention to any study guides or review materials you can get your hands on, and make mental notes about different types of questions you see on early quizzes and tests. Additionally, anytime you hear your professor say something like, "This is important, pay attention," and lecture, that's a cue to take extra careful notes. A lot of my friends in school thought it was a cue to take a nap, but they were wrong. Beyond that, whether you're sitting in class or going through a reading assignment in your textbook, you want to pay special
And if I
Course
may,
series is a good example of outline-style notes. Each video's outline has several different top-level bullets, followed by several levels of detail. Yes, this is my actual outline. Now, the outline method is great for creating well-organized notes, but because it's so rigid, you can easily end up with a ton of notes that all look the same. So to prevent that from happening, use formatting tricks to make important details stand out when you're reviewing them later on. For example, in these notes I took during an information systems class, you can see that I've got several details written down underneath prototyping. All of them were important enough to write down, but since the professor specifically mentioned that quick development and low cost were the most important aspects of prototyping, I made sure to bold that line. Next, we're going to go over the Cornell method. Developed by the Cornell University professor Walter Pock back in the 1950s and popularized in his book How to Study in College, the Cornell method.
Okay, so I think I'm hoping that that was a sufficient taste of that video. And just in the interest of time, I did provide a document of that. I think the supplementary materials of the presentations will be afterwards. So I just provided like videos that are these materials like inspiration for goal setting, physical wellness, and like on exercise, and even like a high interval training exercise for students to kind of just emphasize physical wellness. And I love how speak incorporate wellness and like almost kind of like breathing exercises. That's really great to incorporate too. And reading, note taking, we just did a taste of, studying for tests, time management, etc. So again, just to bring you back to the homepage, and in the interest of time, yikes, we have five minutes left. I wanted to make sure that you could see some of these different pages and materials that you could easily transfer. So I'm going to go back to my PowerPoint. I'm going to have to be, I guess, a little bit quick here. So why OER? It's free, accessible, and it's open, and it can be edited. There's lots of freedom. You don't have to be confined to a textbook. You can add pages in, add more on note-taking if you think more videos or more methods that maybe worked for you could be useful. And students can keep these resources and go back to them, for the rest of their life, really, and they can just continue to grow as professionals. So a series of steps and questions that you can feel free to ask yourself. What is or what are the most common reasons that prevent success in my class, okay? And also, like, I was honest in terms of saying, like, the grade penalty in terms of the time of which students struggled with handing their essays in on time. Which skills my students need guidance on or reinforcement? How much time can you afford with teaching skills? Is it maybe only one skill you want to focus on, and that's it, and maybe just store the rest for them to hold on time they want? How do you plan to spread out discussion skills? So is it maybe like a 10-minute exercise at the beginning, sort of like a do now to kind of warm up? Are you going to maybe set aside a bigger chunk of time for them to plan out their schedule, let's say from, Thursday to Tuesday, or whatever project it is that you're assigning, just giving them that time and that space for self-care, too. Make sure you block out time for appropriate rest and things like that. And how will you store any extra material success skills in your learning management system and planning that out? I can help a little bit with Canvas as I'm getting to know that, but I'm certain that this probably could be adaptable to any LMS. So the end goal is just to give students the tools they need with an abundance of optional materials so that they can feel and be more equipped to approach assignments, exams, projects, classes, interacting with professionals and opportunities with confidence, and mature professional communication so that doors can be opened to them. Hopefully, I know there's lots of factors, within and beyond their own control that can affect that, but we help them as much as we can to enable them to build a better life for themselves and their loved ones. So thank you so much. This is my email address, jamie.parmisi@raredial.edu. I hope that this presentation was helpful, and I'd be happy to take any questions. We have a couple minutes left, less than I had hoped, but I wanted to make sure I was able to share with you the materials, and thank you so very much for attending today. Are there any questions or comments? Feel free to unmute yourself and share. So I'm not sure if there are any in the chat. Unfortunately, I'm still learning this Blue Jeans app, so I'm not sure how I can view the chat while I am in presentation sharing my screen. So if you did leave a question or a comment in the chat, you can feel free to unmute yourself and share verbally if you're comfortable.
Jamie, could you share your email address again? I didn't see it, and I'd like to contact you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'm sharing my screen and it's on my slide, so I'm hoping that people can see, but I'm happy to verbally share it too. It's my first name dot my last name at raritanval.edu. So I'll spell it JAMIE dot PARMESE at Raritanval RARITANVAL .edu. If you need me to repeat that, I'd be happy to.
No, that's great. Thanks.
Well, thank you for that video.
Sure, my pleasure.
I love that video.
Oh, you're
as
welcome.
you were talking, I put it in my Canvas space, a link to it. So probably note taking.
Oh, awesome. That's fantastic. That's great. Yeah, there's a whole YouTube channel of different skills, so feel free to check it out. And I put together a Word document, so I'm gonna assume that my materials will be shared with you after the presentation through the facilitators of this conference. So, and like I said, you can always email me, and I'm happy to share it there too. Yep. So it is 11:55. I want to respect people's time, especially if you're not going with the theme of self-care. If you need to take a break before attending the next presentation, I'm happy to hang around here for a couple more minutes, for maybe about 5 more minutes till the next presentation. And thank you so much again. It was a delight.
Jamie, do you have a student success team at Raritan Valley?
So it's not an official department per se. I'm basically the coordinator, and I do get in touch with, I'm under the supervision of the dean of the Division of Liberal and Fine Arts. So I often am in contact with her, the dean, her administrative assistant, and I'm also in contact with the previous coordinator, who is a professor that teaches education at RBCC. So I like to go to her in case I need any assistance in developing perhaps some of these materials or ideas. I also work with teachers from other institutions. So we're sort of getting our feet off the ground in terms of this Pathways to College Success course, and specifically making it an OER course. So we're kind of in the beginning stages of it, but I don't know if there's necessarily an official team per se, but I'm the main person that helps coordinate the classes, recruit faculty, get content connected with our career services office. I'm working with a counselor from there, as well as we have an office of service learning that gives students opportunities to, it's like a little bit like an internship in a way, do community service type of activities for a period of time where that might be relatable to their interests and career skills that they might be interested in developing. So I guess in a way, that's sort of my team right now in terms of working with them. But no, there's no official team. I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it does. We're looking into that further and
okay.
Trying to help with retention.
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, we're also doing an initiative at Raritan Valley called Access to Success. And for time's sake, I didn't want to get too much into the depth with that, but it's basically an initiative where we're asking ourselves, how can we, through pedagogy and through, maybe even these success courses, help students who are under-resourced, and particularly students who might be going through a lot and just who are experiencing lots of disadvantages and obstacles that might be preventing them from succeeding in college classes and, like you said, retention. So we're very in tune to that, and that initiative paused during the pandemic because everyone was so busy trying to learn how to teach on Zoom. But I think now that we're emerging back from the pandemic, I think that's definitely an initiative we're interested in exploring further again and picking up again. So that's great that you are aware of that at your own institution. That's fantastic.
Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. So I'll hang around here for about one more minute in case anyone else has questions or comments or ideas they'd like to bounce off. All right, well, thank you so much again for being here with me today. Last couple of seconds till noon. So again, my email address, jamie.parmisi@raritanval.edu. Feel free to keep in touch with me. I'd love to share materials and I'd love to learn and perhaps bounce ideas and exchange ideas with you of how I could also be a better teacher. And of course, if you have any feedback on this presentation as well, I'm always eager to gain that as well if you're comfortable sharing with me directly. So thank you so much again. Take care.